Ajusta Tu Corona was a dream of mine since I was very young. I didn't bring it to fruition until I was much older. And basically what it is we all have a story to tell. And a lot of people were not aware of my story, of their stories, and they were a little bit shocked to find out what our humble beginnings were and how we became so successful. So never underestimate the power of your story. It is inspirational, it is motivational, it can save someone's life. My message to all the women out there, to everyone out there who may be facing adversity, never forget how amazing you are. Never forget how exceptional you are. Ajusta tu corona and keep it moving. Great evening, everyone out there. I am Lilian Maldonado, host and founder of Ajusta Tu Corona. Tonight we have a guest. I was just backstage with her talking a little bit, and you are in for such a special session. It is very deep. She's an amazing woman. Her name is Barbara La Pointe, and Barbara is a certified divorce and relationship coach. Hello, Richard. I invite you guys to interact this evening, ask questions of her. She's just so smart and so involved in all of her trainings, and her areas of expertise are narcissistic personality disorder, high conflict relationships, inherited family trauma, and I really want to touch on that one. We were just talking about it backstage, and it's just so interesting to me. So let me bring her on. Hello, Barbara.
Hi.
How are you?
I am very well and so grateful to be here. Buenas noches, bienvenidos, hola. Really nice to be here with you and your audience. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you. Why don't you tell our audience where you're streaming from?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually excited to be streaming live here with you all from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And I'm on a holiday here. And so this was great that I could include this time with you. And yeah, I'm loving it. So I'm a little hot, but it's going well.
Oh, I'm so excited. So, Barbara, we were talking a little bit backstage, and I'm going to just dive into it because I'm so curious. It says that you specialize in narcissistic behavior and high conflict relationships. Now, to me, and you're the professional here, they're almost one and the same. But you said that they cross each other, or they're totally different.
Yeah, that's such a good question, because there's a lot of talk about narcissism in our popular culture on social media, and sometimes we just get kind of confused. There's a lot of crossovers. I often use the term high conflict personality because it just kind of broadens the spectrum. It's just a wider scope to look at it. But for sure, to answer your question, a narcissistic person is a high conflict personality. And there's different kinds of narcissistic personalities out there. For the context of our conversation today, we're going to be talking about the really bad ones. Like we're talking at really abusive narcissists, really abusive narcissistic abuse. So we're not talking about high conflict personalities at a 5 out of 10. So we're really deep diving with this. Side note, there's about 15% of the population that are HCPs, which is an acronym for high conflict personalities. And the High Conflict Institute in Southern California says that's about 10%, but the DSMI actually places it at 15% of our population. So what does that mean? We're going to run into a narcissist or a high conflict personality at work, in a court case, in a divorce, in a relationship. We are going to meet one. And then also, before we keep going, I am a solution-focused coach. I do have a specialty in narcissism in many ways. And I love inherited family trauma. I was very blessed to train directly with Mark Wolin, who wrote a book called It Didn't Start With You. But I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a psychologist. So when you get into narcissism, just as a fair warning for all, I'm definitely the heroine of my own story. I invite everyone to just reach out to my website and download my free ebook. It's called Erased by a Narcissist. So I am the heroine as well as the coach in the story of finding our crown, adjusting it, polishing the diamonds as we heal from narcissistic abuse. But would you like to, I don't want to spend the whole time talking, but I do want to set the context. So high conflict personalities, these are people that enjoy conflict, create conflict, raise tensions, incite conflict, blame others. So I often refer to them as blame shifters. And narcissism, a narcissist will also blame others with all or none thinking. And it's an enduring pattern of behavior with these 8 high conflict personalities, where instead of reducing conflict or resolving it, they're just running into conflict, creating conflict and inciting conflict wherever they go. It's a regular part of their lives. Now, you and I might have a conflict one day, Lillian, but we would be able to find the middle ground, right? Mm-hmm. You can't do that with a high conflict personality. Some quick overviews of a narcissist for the audience might be helpful, because we have this sort of like cartoon idea of what they're like. The main bottom line characteristic that I like to share is that they lack empathy. So these folks can wreak havoc in your life, and they do. They can wreak havoc in a divorce case, in your relationship. They're very abusive, demeaning. They like to humiliate you. They're dominating. They will respond to conflict in a power assertive way, but they lack empathy. So they don't really have any emotional attachment to what they're doing to you. Do you know, like, they don't feel bad. So one of the main characteristics of a narcissist and an HCP, but really for a narcissist, is that they lack empathy. Mm. And that's a human quality that makes them very, special. Yeah. All right. I want to let you pipe in.
That's a very nice way to put it.
Yeah. They, you know what? It's kind of a passionate subject, because they really can destroy and ruin a woman's life. If a HCP or a narcissist targets you, that target that goes on your back, whether you're I'm speaking as a woman survivor. I'm speaking to women. Of course, there are some women who are narcissists too. Statistically, it's more males that are, however, and that's evidence-based data I just shared. But when they put a target on your back, you become like the person that they blame. They are fixated on you. Okay, it's your fault. They're going to destroy you. They're going to ruin you. They're going to seek revenge. They're going to act out their unmanaged emotions on you. So it is kind of quite a serious thing.
It's so funny that you should say that, because I personally know someone that is a male that every word that just came out of your mouth was the words used against him. How she was going to ruin his life, she was going to make him pay, and she put that bullseye on his back. And she did exactly everything you said. But so I know from a personal experience of it happening to a male.
Interesting. Yes. And you know what? One thing I do find is that men are underserved in terms of receiving support for abuse.
Absolutely.
Right? Abuse is like part of the human journey, unfortunately. Until we all begin to collectively evolve our consciousness, abuse is rampant. And Lillian, we talked about this and we know this, but imagine how he felt, Because when you have someone that is harassing you, stalking you, you feel that they want to destroy you. She said to him, I'm going to ruin you, right?
Yes.
A big one too is I'm going to ruin you financially. You're going to be poor by the time you're done this divorce with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's just say it, like, that really hurts. And that is a very scary place to be, when someone is targeting you like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very sad. And and they use anything in their means. They don't care about anything. Like you said, that they'll use their children. Like they really have no, because they lack empathy, they're really not seeing the hurt that they're causing their children as well.
They can't. They really have no, and that's the hard thing, is because women often, or humans often, try and change these people, but statistically we know that they don't change. So really, when you're dealing with a narcissist or HCP, you can't win at the high conflict game. You can't win with someone like this. You have to leave the game in order to win. But when we have children with them, we can't leave. So it becomes a very long game. And unfortunately, regular normal strategies to resolve conflict just don't work with these personalities. You talked about parenting, and the narcissist will often be a more authoritarian style parent, more power assertive.
Hmm.
And he or she, the narcissist, will view the child as like just an extension of them. Like, instead
Wow.
of the child having their own identity, their own experiences, their own fulfillment. So they're like a piece of property. And that's when we see children become chess pieces, or almost like, in a game of war with a narcissist.
Do you happen to know, well, I guess with anything, how do you think that it lasts forever? Like, will the child need therapy? Like, or is it a done deal? I mean, I guess it's not. We can all change.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question that you just asked, and I would feel confident saying that that's probably another underserved, under-researched area, I think. Most often I'm asked, do narcissists change even if they went to therapy? Um, Statistically, we know that if narcissists go to therapy, like, first of all, they're going to say, I'm not going to therapy, because they're the arrogant players of divorce. They're the arrogant players, right? They don't have the problem. They're blaming, they're shifting blame. So they're never going to go to therapy. The chances are really, really, really low. But even if you did find a narcissist and they said, yeah, I'll go to therapy, first of all, they're really excellent manipulators of professionals. They manipulate judges, lawyers, and psychologists in things like PN8 and custody trials, for example. But even if you did find a narcissist on the planet and he or she said, I'm willing to go for therapy, statistically, it's said that it takes 5 years of intensive cognitive behavioral therapy before you see the most minute changes in their personality. So this is a lifetime enduring pattern of behavior, and that's it. So, but with respect to your question, Lillian, about children, we're so much of our environment. There's so many factors there. I think it's really, really painful to have a narcissistic parent as a child, and yeah, I think they're going to benefit and flourish from the type of therapy that would be right for that child at some point in the timeline of their life. I don't mind giving a personal example here. Like, if I wanted to, for example, get some supportive therapies for any one of my children, the narcissist would say no. They wouldn't allow that. So it's a very complex situation, but I can say that I have a lot of women in my practice that for sure have had more than one narcissist in their life. Like usually once you become conscious that you have a narcissist in your life, whether it's a husband, boyfriend, ex-spouse, then you go, oh, that person was too, or oh, my mother was too. And you kind of have like a little mini collection of them often, or often one of your parents would have been a narcissist. So it's not an isolated it's not an isolated relationship. It's not an isolated trauma. It's yeah.
That's I'm smiling because as you're talking about that, it's I constantly talk about my experience with domestic abuse, where I went from one domestic abuse relationship to another one. And I was like, so in the narcissistic, you go from one to another one as well. So is it us that needs the healing, or is it the narcissist that needs the healing? Like, we have to learn to accept blame for staying.
Well, you know what? We tend to blame ourselves a lot,
Oh, yeah.
and we are being blamed. And so, but yes, at the bottom line is yes, the the I won't say the problem, but the call to healing
Yes.
is deep, deep inside. And I know you know this. So it's like, and usually too, as you go from one abusive relationship to the next, it gets worse and worse. It's kind of like if you don't learn the lesson, the universe just keeps giving it to you over and over again until you get it. And that's a very minuscule, minimal way to say it. But yeah, if all of those things that we're it's up to us to change ourselves is what I'm trying to say, and the
Mhm.
healing begins with us, and that's when our energy changes, our vibration changes, our expression to our trauma changes, our epigenetics change, our ancestral field changes, um, our trauma, how we hold it somatically in our body changes when we start going inside instead of looking at the narcissist to help us or to change him. And so that is the joy of this work, from going from broken to empowered, whole, stepping into our personal truth, starting to step in and seize, pieces of freedom until we become totally, totally free. It's a journey.
It's Kensuke to Masterpiece, which is the theme of our gala this year. And for those of you that don't know, Kensuke is the Japanese pottery or plate or cup that is broken, and they put it back together with gold glue, creating a masterpiece, a piece of art. And that is what we are. We are Kensuke masterpieces when we bring ourselves together and when we heal.
I
So,
love that.
yeah, that was one of our co-organizers in the previous year spoke on that, and it just like stuck with all of us. So that is the topic of our gala this year. We have Milagros who asks, is it possible for a narcissist to change their behavior? But you did say that even with therapy. Okay.
It's really not. I mean, as loving, empathetic people, as loving, empathetic, we want to think that they're going to change. And most times we stick around because we have for years been trying to change them. I'm not saying anything is possible in this miraculous universe that we live in. So please hear that. But chances are, statistically, these personalities do not change because it's an enduring pattern of behavior that began in their childhood. And that lack of empathy is part of their personality, part of their genetic makeup, and that we cannot change.
When you say, Barbara, their genetic makeup, let's now talk about what we were talking about backstage. So, I once went to a Mother's Day retreat, and it was to talk about healing. And in that retreat, they taught us that when we are formed in the womb, we are already carrying the trauma of three generations, our mothers and our grandmothers' generation traumas. So basically, we're really not starting with a clean slate, are we?
Yeah, that's such a deep acknowledgement that's kind of heavy and freeing at the same time. So when we're involved with a narcissist, when we're going through a series of abusive relationships, when we really deeply begin to acknowledge our trauma, sometimes we feel like it's our work and we're carrying so much inside to heal. And healing can happen in a nanosecond or it can be a journey, but sometimes we might even feel like, well, what's wrong with us? Once we start reading up on narcissists, we feel like we're the narcissist, and sometimes we make mistakes so many times. And so it's a self-love journey to healing. But when you start breaking open that healing journey, at a certain point, you start looking larger than inside. You start looking into what I call the quantum field. You start looking ancestrally, or what you were referring to was epigenetics, but basically that's your family tree. So that's really interesting what you shared, that the trauma lasted for 3 generations in your mom, right? And we have a broken bond with our mom. That's called the mother wound. So sometimes it doesn't belong to us. We're carrying something that we can let go of. We're carrying something that we can give back to our ancestors. That might be our mom. That might be our grandmother. And it might be someone in our family tree that we don't even know that we are ancestrally connected to. But it's important to know that when you start shaking the family tree, you'd be really surprised what comes out. But you can make such deep, deep discoveries about the root cause of some of your own trauma. So that's what we're talking about, right? Is it
Yes.
them or is it us? Do we need to go in? Do we
Yeah.
need to go inside and
Yeah.
heal? And then after a while, like, why is this happening to me? And then when you go really quantum large, you can find new pieces of your own puzzle and start putting them together. So what we were talking about backstage, for example, with our mom is if we don't bond with a parent, if we don't have a secure bond with our mother in the first 5 years of life, 6 years of life, then we have a broken bond, and we will spend the rest of our lives trying to repair that bond. So if we have, most women who have been with a narcissist or an abusive person have a broken bond with one of their parents. So
Wow.
parents, yeah, it's right. And so children who go, I don't want to jump around too much, but really, like, so we're going to either, like, people have a broken bond with their mom. If you have a broken bond with one of your parents, you can't find and create a love bond with another human being until you address it. So you think you would have a loving bond with your husband, but then you're with a narcissistic abuser. So if you don't have a strong, concrete love bond with mom from the very beginning of life, you have a hard time earning money and being abundant and being prosperous. So if you're like, oh, why am I always poor? Why can't I make money? Well, sometimes that can be a sign of a broken bond with your mom.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are two telltale signs. Abusive relationships too are another sign of. So this is what you were talking about: inherited family trauma that's carried 3 generations throughout, like through the family tree. And that's called epigenetics and inherited family trauma. And there was a study actually similar to that. It's famous, with mice, where a mouse was like endured trauma, and the 3 generations, that baby mouse, same thing, same outcome, felt the trauma. So where does, it's carried through our lineage is what I'm saying. And at one point we free ourselves to break free of all that. And I shared a personal example with you that my mother was always tired, sad, and depressed. And through my and through my life, I was just, I'm so tired. I'm so tired and sad, crying, depressed. So that's called merging with your mom. And it's all done subconsciously. It's not something that we're conscious of, but all of this to say, sometimes it's not all ours. Um, Sometimes when we can give stuff back that doesn't belong to us. At one point I gave that back to my mom. I said, Mom, I'm really sorry that you didn't get the love, the caring, and the nurturing that you needed, but I can't be tired, sad, and depressed anymore. I've got to give this back to you, Mom, because I deserve to have my own life where I'm happy, empowered, fulfilled, prosperous, abundant. And I gave it back to her. I mean, so these are examples of working with inherited family trauma. It's the biology of our beliefs. It's the biology of our trauma. It's wild stuff. It is deeply, deeply, profoundly healing. It's soul work. It's soul healing.
So let me ask you a question, Barbara. So if someone, okay, so this leads into our adult life. Are you able to go back and mend the relationship with your mother if you're an older person? Or if you never mend that relationship with your mother, will you always have this feeling? Does it ever break?
That's a very insightful question. That's a really good question because sometimes we can't. Sometimes a parent passes away. Sometimes, so we visit, okay, now we're getting into it, but yet we can always reconnect with our mom or our parent or our ancestor. We can always go back to address that broken bond. Sometimes if a person we were very abused, let's use the example that we were very abused by a parent. And it's not like you want to go back there and confront them or sit in the living room with them. But we can do things for ourselves in our own healing way that we can still accomplish the healing. Okay? So if our mom has passed away, then we can speak to her through meditation, prayer. We can just talk to our mom as if she was just here. If you don't want to go back and talk to your mom, but most inherited family trauma folks would encourage you to do that. One small thing you can do is to take a picture of your mother and put it in your bedroom. So a picture of mom, put it in your bedroom and just send a little bit of love to that photograph every day. And if you were abused by a parent, that might be really, really hard to do. It sounds like such a little thing, but we can do those little things, which are big things, if we can't just go back and just talk to our mother, talk to our father. Because for some of us, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, while they're living, so while they're dead, they can still do it when they've passed on. Wow, this is intense. Like to me, this is just such an interesting conversation, and how I've been on a healing journey with all of this information that you're providing, but not really knowing it. So it's like every day I become a little bit more conscious
Yeah.
of of the vibes and the spirits and everything around you. What is you said your areas of expertise. It says family court corruption. What does that mean?
Is that on my bio?
Bio.
You know what? I love it. I try to stay away from negativity when I talk about family court because um, it's a volatile place. I call it a very unloving place. I am happy to do strategy sessions with women going to family court because I've been through it all. I've been through a high conflict custody battle. I've spent 7 years in family court. Um, Actually, millions of dollars have been spent trying to take away my opportunity to be a mother. So I'm happy to sit down with women, and because the sooner you implement strategies with high conflict personalities that wreak havoc in family law cases, the better your outcomes will be. So don't be stubborn, reach out for qualified support and help right away, because you'll even save money with your family lawyer, because you won't go in there crying. You'll go in there with a deep clarity about what you want to accomplish, what you want your outcomes to be. And this is a great time to loop back to narcissists because they love the drama of family court. Narcissists are often known to have like an entourage around them. It plays to their the attention that they need to have and that they seek. So family court is like their favorite place, to say it in a funny way, and it's a painful place to go. So if you can avoid going there, um, and we know, and I feel really confident saying this because most of the stats that I pull are from the High Conflict Institute, which is the gold standard when it comes to narcissists and high conflict people. So even Bill Eddy, he wrote a book called 5 Personalities That Can Ruin Your Life. And he goes into the 5 different types of narcissists, which is very helpful. I suggest anyone pick that up. But yeah, so they love family court, and Bill Eddy says that narcissists are very skilled manipulators of family law judges and family law lawyers. So we've got to remember that lawyers, family lawyers, judges, they don't have a lot of training in trauma, in the trauma that a woman has gone through when she's been the recipient of enduring long-term narcissistic abuse. That is slowly changing. They're starting to get some training to recognize the signs and red flags of narcissists and HCPs, but they don't. So also a main theme with the narcissist, of course, is control. They're all about that control, right? So family court gives them a lot of control, ultimate control over your life, because if you're hauled to court, you have to go. So they're attracted to this type of unloving system, that I call family court. It's an unloving place.
I have a two-part question from Richard. Part
Hey,
one, it says, Barbara, would you say guilt, regret, and holding on to past traumas is indicative of living in the past?
if you're embodying guilt and regret, and what was the other one?
Uh, Guilt, regret, and holding on to past traumas.
And you're holding on to past traumas? Yes. So you have unresolved trauma. Sometimes we can go into something called like a limbic loop. That's an actual term where we just replay what happened over and over again in the landscape of our mind, in the landscape of our heart, in our soul. We replay it over and over again. But the thing is, it's trapped in our body. So trauma, we're covering the whole gamut here. And that was a really powerful question. When regret, shame, reliving the past, or reliving the abuse, that is stuck in our body. And what we have to do is to heal and resolve the trauma is to somatically release it. So that means get it out of the body. So that is so important, to release it from our body. Otherwise, yes, so absolutely, there's unresolved trauma there, which is really a beautiful call for healing, for neutralizing and releasing. So the first thing to do is to name it. And so thank you for naming those. You named it: the shame, the regret, reliving. So we name it and then we sit with it. We just sit with it. And there's other things that you can do through therapeutic processes, but naming it is the first thing. So I acknowledge you for that. Sitting with it in a very non-judgmental way where we just slow down. It's like, I'm ashamed. I feel so much regret. And if you can localize where you feel that regret, so regret is really alive for you, that's a charged emotion in your body, and I can feel it. Actually, when I said that, I felt it in the back of my head and right here in my heart, the regret. That's a big one. I actually feel that in my body for you. So, but if I'm not right, localize where that is alive in your own body, because it lives somewhere in your body. And that is how we start to begin to unpack our trauma. I hope that's helpful.
His second part says, Eckhart Tolle says to live in the present, in the now. Would you consider that a safe process in overcoming things of the past?
Some really nice questions tonight. And I really actually love that question. So it's kind of like a simultaneous, it's like not one or the other. So that process I just described to you is resolving our trauma. It's that deep inner healing that might bring up a lot of emotions, memories, right? So that's here. Where's the camera? That's here. And then over here, we can start to create mindfulness, a mindfulness practice where we become mindful, where we bring all our soul energy to this one present moment, to calm ourselves, to know that the only thing that is alive is the present moment, to know that our point of power exists in the present moment. And we can do those in little micro steps until we become every day more mindful and begin to live the miracle of mindfulness. So I would say that supporting yourself with a mindfulness practice and some of the present moment awareness, present moment power is definitely a way to powerfully support yourself.
Wow. One more. Are the 5 different narcissists a subject of the main 2, covert and vulnerable?
Okay, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to think of the best way to address that question. There's a lot of different kinds of narcissists. So a vulnerable narcissist, covert narcissist. What exactly is the question?
Are the 5 different narcissists a subset of the main 2, covert and vulnerable?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I would say no. I would say if you want to break down the 5 different kinds of narcissism, the reference I like best is the 5 personalities that can ruin your life. Because, another question you might ask me is like, well, what about a sociopath? Is a sociopath a narcissist? So he is a psychologist, and Bill Eddy breaks those down to a sociopath, borderline, all of the 5, which and you'll recognize whatever one you're involved with. Like when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, the histrionic narcissist, right? But mostly we hear about the covert narcissist and I just like boil it down to their personalities of arrogant, cruel, lacks empathy, those red flags. I don't think I helped with my answer.
Oh my gosh.
What I do feel called to say to that woman is that one of the painful things about being with a narcissist, the ones she's describing in the covert narcissist, pardon me, I love to learn, this is good, is that sometimes we don't, the outside world has no idea that they're a narcissist. So we're being abused or having these painful gaslighting interactions that undermine us with a narcissistic personality. And the rest of the world goes, wow, that person is so charismatic, so put together, so good at business. And we know the truth. So that, but you would never know from the outside, oftentimes, what the covert narcissist is capable of doing in the bedroom or in the home, or when she says she's going to ruin you, or she takes your cell phone and hides it so you think that you're crazy, those type of things. And then the outside world goes, wow, I can't ever picture Angela doing that. She looks so like such a lovely person, right? So it's a hidden abuse.
Absolutely. He says, thank you. You broaden it, so it's great. Thank you very much. Um, a narcissist will never admit they're one. All their actions are always justified in their eyes. Exactly what you were just saying.
Yeah, the narcissist always wins. They're never accountable. They're never wrong. I just choke when I say that. They're never wrong. They're never accountable. They're always right. Right? They're always right. And so there are these strategies that you can implement, but it takes a lot of self-discipline to sort of, if you have to, come to some sort of constructive conflict resolution with them. So you can use a strategy called the BIF strategy with your emails, which stands for brief, informative, firm, and friendly. But you have to stop giving them the narcissistic supply. Stop feeding them with your energy, your words and emails. So implementing a BIF strategy is good in your emails, and you can do coaching sessions with those. You can practice them. Brief, informative, firm, and friendly, but not too friendly. Will give you better outcomes if you have to deal with them through time.
That's amazing. Oh my God, this conversation was so good. Our time just flew through. So, Barbara, I know that if on the social media platform you are Barbara La Pointe Coaching this is barbaralapointe.com. So that's your webpage, correct?
Correct. That's my website.
So it's also Barbara La Pointe Coaching on social media. If you would like to follow her, well, I suggest you follow her. She's just amazing. Follow her, contact her, any questions that you may have. If you are ready to start your process of healing, definitely contact her. She is just amazing. And I hope to have you back soon because I thought you were absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I wish everyone healing solutions in the now.
Oh, amazing. So to everyone, as we always end, never forget how much you are loved. Never forget how amazing you are. Never forget how exceptional each and every one of you are. Adjust your crown and keep it moving. Good night.
Thank you.